Thank you for watching, and thank you so much to all our new subscribers and anyone who made a comment on any of our previous videos. We trust you are enjoying exploring Angola with us. After leaving the Iona National Park, on the advice of the vet Maria, Rod and I headed for Mocamedes, which is also known as Namibia. Tracks for Africa routed us through some really amazing geography, and we took a break at the canyon of the Lagoa dos Acros before we hopped onto the tar. We arrived in town late in the afternoon and encountered a challenge. Lots of roundabouts. The wrong way round. It took a while, but Rod figured it out and I had to spot anything heading our way. We headed for our first Pumangol and filled up. Our plastic did not work. They don't take dollars. So I went to the garage shop and managed to get someone to translate to allow the petrol attendant to take Rod to the closest ATM to draw cash. Problem solved. Everyone was so friendly and willing to help. Pumangol garages are all over Angola, and they are easily recognized by their red and green logo with a stylized puma. They serve proper coffee, hot food, snacks, books, and huvanas, and vehicle necessities. The diesel was around 4.70 rand a litre. Yes, really. What's that? Around 25 US cents? And their bathrooms are clean. That's a big tip. We used Pumangol wherever we found one, and I came home with some huvanas for me and Addie, our granddaughter. Our goal in Mocamedes was to get data, refuel, restock, and get some laundry done, and review our next steps. We generally stay as far out of town as possible, and the Villa de Oratia was our destination. It's a wee bit run down and a wee bit in need of some upgrades, but the shower was hot and the food was good and reasonably priced, so that was where we went. It's under new management who are actively trying to get things done. Mocamedes was the first real town we encountered in Angola, and I loved it. There are beautiful old buildings and ragtag falling down buildings, but also lovely palm-lined boulevards. It would set the scene for the rest of our time in Angola. There is a shopping centre with a ShopRite. One reads that Angola is very expensive. Some things were expensive. Fresh fruit and veg were fairly pricey, but the meat was okay and basics such as milk and water were fine. The laundry was exactly where it was supposed to be according to Tracks for Africa and Overlander. When travelling in an overland vehicle, there is limited space, so Rod figures out our refueling and restocking runs sitting at his desk in Sandton, months before we leave. But we were not in Angola to hang out in towns, no matter how charming. Our goal was to head eventually to Cachoeiras Calendula and Pedras Negras and many other attractions. From Mocamedes, we were bound for the Baia Sorba, a stunning resort on the Atlantic. Rod was flying high on the price of diesel, so we opted to stay at the lodge. The drive was so beautiful, it's really hard to compare Angola to anywhere else as the geography is very different. This steep, windy road leads down from the lodge to the beach and the ocean. We spent the afternoon exploring the campsite and the beach. There are standard campsites and also tented campsites. all within this beautiful bay. The Atlantic is rough and exhilarating. There is lots to do. One can hire various watercraft, and the fishermen we met from Namibia report that this is an excellent place to fish. Sorba has conferencing facilities set within these beautiful caves, and Andrea, our host, runs various types of wellness workshops. Our room was super comfy with a grand view of the ocean. The staff were really friendly and the food in the restaurant was exceptional, with a most wonderful host, a lady called Andrea. We arrived in time for lunch. Oh my hat! We had snapper. Not 100% certain what type, but it was so good we had it for supper as well. I think this is a walnut cake with a chocolate sauce. Brand new creme caramel. And then some kind of fried bread with a syrup sauce. And then pancakes of Africa and lots of different jams and various things to go with it. This is the road leading away from Baia Sorba back towards the main road. It's about 10 kilometers or so, and it's really picturesque. We kept stopping to take photos of birds that I don't know that I'll ever be able to identify, and there were lots of interesting plants. The car in front of us are some fisher folk from Namibia who came to stay in the campsite for a week. Andrea gave us some tips about where to head to next, so we were off to Binga Bay. It does rain a lot in parts of Angola, and clearly when it rains, this road becomes a river. There are other, perhaps more established campsites in other bays, but the drive down to the bay was breathtaking, and the old buildings were endearing, and we were alone other than the fisher folk, and the water in the bay was warm and calm. and watching the crabs bolting around was great entertainment. Rod and I explored the campsite, which is situated along the edge of the bay. The bathrooms were very rustic. I was so grateful we are self-sufficient. We drove along the edge of the bay for quite some time before deciding the dilapidated building at the start of the bay would be a grand place to camp. This little bay is called Binga Bay, Baia Binga. So the crabs seem to be quite, well, I've chased them away, but they're quite enjoying the pile of fruit skins and that kind of thing. And I've discovered why the beach is actually quite clean. There's a man who actually comes and cleans it. And me, I'm right in favor. The water is still lovely and warm, especially for the Atlantic. And yesterday afternoon, Rod and I had a really good swim. I even got all the way wet. I'm a big wimp when it comes to water. I'd love to have known what Angola was like 50 years ago. I get the same kind of vibe here as I did when I first went to Ponta d'Or in maybe back in 1994, 1995. That the Portuguese people, and I'm not having a political discussion about this, but the fact is the Portuguese people had built themselves a little piece of heaven on earth on either sides of the continent. And I think with a little bit of will and a lot of elbow grease and a couple of buckets of money, this place could be a gold mine. However, don't wait, get off your bums and figure it out. The road from Baia Sorba to here was excellent tar most of the way, and then maybe 10 kilometers before Binga Bay it turned into decent gravel, and then the gravel got less decent, and the decent gravel road had piles and piles of rubble, building rubble, dead trees, etc., etc. Who knows what went wrong, but we have seen that before. We see it in South Africa. Something goes wrong with a contract, and the contractor says, right, I'm not going to let you use my sparkly new road. And off they go. Yep. So as I said it, don't wait for the governments and the investors and the roads. I think I read something once that said, don't wait for the perfect day. Take the day and make it perfect. And I think today is going to be a perfect day. Obviously we are in a very sheltered little bay, And the water here is quite shallow, so the sunshine was sitting on it all day. But last night we had an absolutely fabulous dinner, sitting watching the crabs. We made a little fire and we had some steak and some fresh steamed vegetables. And this morning, this is what we woke up to. It's already very hot. So we're going to have some breakfast, pump the tires up a little bit. We were driving on the beach a bit yesterday, and head up the road. That's the secret signal. Rod always makes breakfast. We've got a division of labor that makes sense for both of us, but Rod always makes breakfast. And all over Africa, wherever we've been, we've managed to have muesli and fruit and yogurt. Our destination after Binga Bay was Cachoeiras do Binga in Sumba, so after breakfast we trekked back up the hill and headed mostly north. We traversed the Dombe Grande Pass, and along the way we encountered the first of many unfinished bridges. There are lots of urban legends about what went wrong, but who knows? The most credible of the stories we heard include lack of funds or poor quality of work. Perhaps the poor state of some of the roads adds to the excitement and adventure of travelling in Angola. Rod hopes that they never fix these roads. In our next video, we explore the Cachoeiras de Binga and the lovely town of Benguela, where we spent some time in a lodge due to ill health.